What's up, everybody? Welcome to Vibing with Sleazy, the podcast. This is season 7, episode 17. I want to thank everybody for listening, tuning in, and downloading. It's been a great season so far. I've had some great guests. I've had some great solo episodes. Really want to shout out different people that have been on the show here recently. And, Whitney Yaden was a great episode. Got a lot of feedback from her and her friends. I also want to shout out Shavi from high school for sharing my podcast about the NFL draft. It's always dope seeing friends from back in the day reach out and shout out and show some love. So, overall, I want to thank everybody that's been listening. I have another special announcement that I haven't said on the past couple episodes, but currently 85 countries are now listening to Vibing with Sleazy, the podcast. That means that at least one download has happened in that country. So for 85 to happen, to be played on every continent, it's an extreme blessing. I feel like with the audio going to YouTube, sometimes that helps. And then also, too, it just very interesting. A lot of the countries that have tuned in, it was almost a 34 country growth. So I'm really, really excited about that. But I have a very special guest, somebody I go way back with, and one of my favorite people. It is Carrie Phelps. How have you been doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Overall, very excited to have you on the show. You have been a supporter of the show. Your boyfriend's been on the show, of course, Doug K. And I am very thankful for both of your all support. So this is somebody that I have been wanting on the show, and me and Carrie, I always know she's supporting. So finally have got her on, and so I'm very happy that you've decided to come on. So. Um,
Excited to be here, bud.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, how has life been treating you?
It's been all right. We had a rough start to the year. I got hit by a car while crossing the street, so that was super fun to deal with.
I
But other
hate
than
that
that,
that happened. I hate that that happened. That was
uh,
horrible.
it was not a fun experience, but two leg fractures later and a couple of months of downtime, and I'm back on my feet and ready to roll, so we're all good.
Awesome.
Other than that, the month's been pretty good to me because it was my birthday a couple weeks ago.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you. We did some tie-dye and roasted some hot dogs over a campfire. So, good old country fun.
Nice.
That's
I
about
actually
all
did
I
my
did.
first tie dye experience recently, last year, with some zoo group, and I thought it was a very interesting process.
I was like, it's super fun to do and super easy because I always have a bunch of white t-shirts that get stained. And that's just like an easy way to kind of like give them a little bit of new life. So tie them up with some rubber bands, dunk them in some dye, and see what happens.
What's the colors you usually go for?
Honestly, it's just whatever I have around. The last two I did were literally just leftover dye from the last time that I had tie-dyed. So we ended up with a kind of random ratio of red, pink, blue, and green.
Ooh, I like that. I was interested how to do it. What it was a bunch of former coworkers when I worked at the zoo. We did a tie dye event. It was actually at High Wire Brewing, which is shut down now in the Highlands down there, where I believe, yeah, Goodfellas Pizza, and uh, went there trying to set up a couple. We had a couple people we were trying to set up there, and did not work out the setup, but the tie dye was fun, and everybody made a shirt. The brewery had a shirt for everybody to get. I believe we paid like $20. What was funny, the guy that was doing it, I actually used to sell beer with him back in the day, and I was like, "This is funny running into you here." And I kind of asked him the process. He was trying to kind of instruct us, and I felt like he didn't even know what he was doing. So it was kind of a free for all, and everyone's shirt turned out very interesting. Shout out to Lynn from the zoo. She kind of got everybody with the ball rolling, and kind of was just like, "You got to do this. You got to do that." And so I still have my shirt, but I don't think it was a very good tie dye job. Um,
And some people can do really interesting, like intricate designs, but I do not understand how. I've done dozens of them at this point and tried my hardest, but they always turn out a little wonky, but we love them anyway.
yeah, and it's fun, and that's the good thing about tie dye. There's no perfection. You're kind of throwing kind of tie dye. painting colors at the wall. You know, the wall's a t-shirt and trying to just mold it together.
Yeah, it's like just free form art. We love it.
Yeah, oh for sure. And so I want to ask, not to get into too many details about it. So getting hit by the car, explain where did this happen? In Louisville, Kentucky, correct?
Yeah, I was on Woodlawn Avenue, and like Third Street crossing to go to a Circle K. So super fun.
And the guy came out of nowhere.
No, he came out of the parking lot, and I just don't think he was looking, and he just pulled out really quickly as I was crossing and just hit into the left side of me.
Did he stop?
No, he did stop after he hit me, yeah, but like he did push me about like 10 feet, I think, something like that.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, people just don't pay attention. That is something in Louisville that is just crazy. I cannot believe in the past 2 years how many cars end up upside down. Like literally the car is flipped completely over. You just
Yeah, I don't
don't
know how they
realize
do
it.
that.
Yeah, I don't get that. I never had seen that over the years. I understand if you're like in war or a demolition derby, but it's like, how is this happening to so many cars?
I also don't understand the sheer number of drivers that are just ramming into buildings. Like that stuff terrifies me, especially now.
Yeah, and in
Uh,
Louisville, we call it Mag Bar for the people listening that aren't from Louisville. Mag Bar is actually a bar in old Louisville called Magnolia Bar, and it has literally had probably over 20 cars driven right through the entrance. And they, when it happens to another business, everybody goes, "Oh, damn, it got Mag Barred." So pretty crazy that it's such a common occurrence in this city. With Ghent, Kentucky, that's where Carrie is coming out of. Carrie, works and has ties in Louisville and has lived here, of course, but Ghent, Kentucky is where she's now representing. Um, Let me ask you, so what's Ghent drivers like?
Honestly, they're few and far between. It's a very, very tiny town. So there's not honestly much traffic on the road. I think the most like discerning factor would be the fact that most people around here drive really large, loud trucks.
Oh, okay. So you got
Yeah.
a lot of diesel in Ghent.
Yeah, a lot of that. And we've had a lot of big construction trucks coming through lately because they're building some sort of small equipment rental place right down the street from me.
How, with Ghent, Kentucky being such a small town, how does the gas stations work? How many gas stations are operating in Ghent?
There's one.
Just one.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's pretty much the moneymaker around there.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nowhere else to go except for, I mean, you can go a little bit up the road to Carrollton or a little bit up the road to Warsaw, and there are gas stations in both of those places, probably two or three.
And I
But
I love that you all live very close to the hop shops, the disco
the
bathroom.
disco bathroom,
Yeah, I think that's so cool. I think that is, I've always make people stop. I actually sent a couple friends there recently, and they didn't believe me. They were older ladies, in their 50s and 60s, and I told them, I said, if y'all are going on this girls trip up to Cincinnati, you got to stop at this gas station. And they're both looking at me like I'm cross-eyed, and I said, no, for real. I said, it's the hop shop. So I said, just don't press that button. And they're like, what? And then they took pictures, they pressed the button, they loved it. So I think it's cool that there's actually two of those, and it's in the middle of just nowhere, for these to have such a entertaining bathroom. So I think that's really cool.
I was like, I think it's a fun concept just because, I mean, it gives you a reason to want to go to a gas station bathroom. Because let's be real, that's generally just kind of torture that you try to avoid unless it's like an emergency.
Oh,
But it gives you a
exactly.
reason to want to go in there, and it's always kind of fun because I always end up in there with a child who's just absolutely losing their mind.
And see, that's what's crazy. The older ladies told me when they went, they didn't realize someone was actually in the stall using the restroom, and they pressed the button, and the lady's like, "Oh, excuse me," and then they start laughing, and I think they all giggled to each other. But it's like at the end of the day, it's kind of like you're taking a risk going to the bathroom there. If you don't want a disco ball and music playing, the lights to go out, you don't need to stop at the hop shop. Um,
Yeah, I mean, people who are photosensitive probably don't enjoy it. but I think it comes with a disclaimer on the for a reason.
Yeah, that'd be crazy if it gets to a point down the road where they have to eventually like sign vouchers or something like that. That would be nuts. But the thing I was gonna spin off on that, so a really big reason I wanted to have Carrie on the show. Carrie is definitely someone I would say is a movie expert, someone who has seen a lot of movies, likes movies. Her and Doug will watch movies during Halloween and give their ratings on the story. And I think that's a really fun concept. And I know Carrie watches movies still to this day. So I want to dive in, talk to you about some of your favorites, talk to you about how that goes in October, and just kind of dive into movies. So, with movies overall in general, what is your go to for a movie? What kind of wets your whistle?
I mean, it really just depends on my mood at the moment. And also, first off, I am not an expert at movies. I would not call myself an expert, but I have enjoyed a whole lot of them at this point.
Well, I believe you are an expert reviewer, I will say, and I
Well,
believe,
thanks. I'm glad you enjoy my opinions.
yes, and I believe that a lot of the reviews are very valid because you're comparing it to other movies, comparing it to other things you've seen, and it's not your first rodeo on watching movie reviewing. So I'll give you the classification for as expert to me. But
That's fair. I'd like to say aficionado, maybe.
yes,
Um,
that's a good word. I like that.
but anyway, my like favorite genre of movies, the horror.
Okay.
Like
And,
to
and why
try to
is
get
that? Why do you feel like you tend to go to those movies?
I really like to try to scare myself, and I don't know what that really says about me as a person, but I find that it's kind of difficult to do at this point because I've seen so many horror movies, and a lot of them rely on, the tropes and the cliches and the jump scares, so I'm a little jaded for them, but when I find one that kind of does something different, something new, puts a twist on something that I already like, then I get really like hyped up and I get a little spooked and I feel like a little kid again. And that makes me happy. I like reconnecting with my inner child. And I think trying to feel scared in some way helps me connect with inner baby Carrie.
And so with it, I feel like it's like horror to you and being scared and going back to it, that's a nostalgia feel. And it's so special to feel that, especially when we get to our age. We're in our late 30s and it's something important I think everybody needs to do. I really my one of my biggest pet peeves is seeing someone even my age range or even in their 40s and they forget their youth. They forget to be a kid. You can still be a kid. That's why I always joke I'm 36 going on 12 because it's like I still enjoy things. I still enjoy Gaddyland. I still enjoy goofy movies, cartoons. It's like you can have a serious side and life is so serious as it is. It's like you got to have some fun sometimes and you got to remember you never need to not forget your youth. Like I just think it's very very important or your life is going to be very depressing.
Yeah, and like I think that's kind of why I started doing the Monday morning nostalgia movie little series, if you want to call it that I do on my stories is just because on Mondays I kind of like to start the day off with something that I'm really familiar with. So obviously the movies that I watched as a child are something that I'm like super familiar with. I've seen them hundreds of times, some of them.
What is your
And
top
so
3? What's the top 3
Oh
for that?
goodness, that's a really tough one because again, I have a lot of them. I spent a lot of time watching TV as a kid, I realized. But my top three would probably be the Three Musketeers, the Disney like 93, I think it was, remake with Kiefer Sutherland.
Okay.
Um, he was like my first crush, so I, adore him.
Yeah.
Uh, Second would probably be Monkey Trouble was a really big one for me in that same era, and I've already done that one as part of the series, which is like, have you seen it? It's a movie with a little girl who adopts a monkey.
No, I've never seen that.
Okay, you would probably enjoy that since love all of the zoo animals. But anyway, it's just like she adopts this monkey who is actually he's like a con man. He was trained by this guy who stands on the boardwalk and like entertains people with the monkey, but he's trained the monkey to be a pickpocket. So when
Wow.
she finds herself in charge of this monkey, he's stealing things and like she's getting in trouble for it. And so it's just like hijinks. But
That
it's a
is
really good.
wild. That is so wild. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I don't know where my exposure to it came from other than I think somebody just taped it on VHS tape, probably off the TV at some point, and I just watched that VHS tape over and over and over again.
That's great.
Um,
That's awesome. What's your third one?
Third one, I'm probably gonna go with Fern Gully just because Fern Gully is the classic and it makes me happy.
Okay, I like that too. That's a good drop there. And so I'm gonna ask you some questions to make it fun that diving into movies. So you have unlimited budget, okay? And I am the producer, so I call you up. I'm letting you build the cast. Give me five cast members of a movie, male or female, that you think would make the ideal perfect movie. And it can be it don't have to be specific horror or specific genre, but just give me your core five of who you would put in a movie that you think would just make a great movie.
Oh, see, that one's also really, really tough. So I have to go with my man Alexander Skarsgård,
Okay.
just because he is one of my all-time favorite actors. I think I would probably put like Florence Pugh in pretty much anything that I ever was involved in making because I adore her. Um, who else would be really good? It's a really tough question, Eric.
Yeah, I like to try to ask some fancy questions sometimes. Make it fun.
Okay. I think I would maybe put like who else is who's a good older gentleman actor?
I would say back.
Okay, now
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Willem Dafoe as someone. Probably put Scarlett Johansson and her husband in the
Okay.
same movie.
Wow.
Um,
So the Jost guy.
yeah, Colin Jost.
Yeah, that'd
Uh,
be great.
he's really funny. I enjoy him on what is it, Pop Culture Jeopardy.
Yes.
He's the host of that. And honestly, I just think they're adorable. So if you put them in a movie as like a loving couple going through anything, it would A, be the most believable because they are one. And B, I would just enjoy to watch them do just about anything.
I
So,
like that because I think they're a great couple too. And here's a fun fact about Colin Jost. His brother actually is one of the main producers of the Impractical Jokers. So the Impractical Jokers that's ran for over 10, I think 11 plus seasons on True TV. Some people love it, some people hate it, but it's been a success. I've always enjoyed the show, enjoyed the guys. I love the story, and I've seen them live. But his brother for a while he was produced, and he also kind of like helped on the set, and they did this like show like inside of Practical Jokers, kind of like a behind the scenes thing where it was like a little spin-off to kind of you know narrate shows that already went on, and Jost would always his brother would always be involved with that. So you can definitely tell that that family has got into entertainment and done that, but it's cool that both those brothers are making an impact in the comedy world.
mhm,
And
for
so,
sure.
and the question I have to ask you too about movies, um, what would you say is the thing that you've noticed since being a kid and now in adulthood? What have you noticed that's changed about movies? Have you noticed anything that like you've sat and been like, man, movies are a lot different nowadays? Is there anything that stands out?
I think a lot of it is just the humor is a lot different because the time period, the humor should be a lot different now than it used to be in some things that I'm revisiting. Um, that and like in horror, there was just this weird time period where they started doing everything was like trauma-based horror. instead of just being regular, slashers or, a good scary story, something with some good lore. It was just all like, oh, this person has mental illness. And like that gets really old really quickly. So I think that's a big difference in like the horror genre.
And
And in comedies, it's just like I feel like the comedies are a lot more varied now, which is good. It's a lot less of the just straight up raunchy, college comedies from back in our youth.
yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
Um, but other than that, I was like, I think movies have always just had a wide variety of, you know, great things and kind of downsides at the same time.
I
So,
think you made a great point because we did in our youth and like our teen years and even going into high school and college, there was so much college humor type movies like Van Wilder and
American Pie,
American Pie and what was that other one? Road Trip. Just different movies.
Waiting was one that I revisited recently that I was like, this did not age very well at all. Like, I
No,
honestly, I turned it off like 30, 45 minutes in because I was like, I can't, just can't stand behind this anymore.
there's some stuff that just can cringe you out from the past. I mean, I believe there was some definitely, I think every decade has produced major classics. And like I said, I'm very happy that I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s to see some really good classics. But yeah, there was some movies that it's just like, kind of cringe now. But it's overall, you do notice how a lot of these movies nowadays too a lot of times movies are being remade that have already been made. I noticed that a lot, like 70s movies, 60s movies, they get remade in the 90s and 2000s. And I always like that, but sometimes they can ruin some classics.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like in our childhood, like in the 90s, early 2000s, the remakes or the reboots of things were a little more few and far between. Whereas now it's like everything is part of a franchise that already exists, or I mean, they're redoing the Lord of the Rings movies, I heard. I don't know if that's a thing we need to do again, but
Yeah.
I love Lord of the Rings, but just leave it alone.
Yeah, leave some things alone. I mean, and see, I love James Bond. I love that it's continued on. I love that they can still make a plot and storyline out of it. But that's something I noticed. The childhood James Bond, even the James Bond before I was born, that I dearly love, there was always still a sense of humor in there a little bit. Even though it's serious, it's spy, it's shooting, it's bad guys, there was always a little bit of like especially with the Roger Moore ones. And nowadays, it is lockdown serious mode, and I like it. I like them all. I don't have a complaint, but definitely that series has evolved in such a wild way. Um, what would you say? And you and I have always found a common love for a certain special guy, Nicolas Cage. So, what is
You love
your
Nicolas
favorite
Cage.
Nicolas Cage movie? You knew I was going to bring up Nicolas Cage.
My favorite Nicolas Cage movie, I mean, I'm like the super weirdo who actually really liked the Nicolas Cage version of The Wicker Man.
Okay.
Um, but I would not say that that is my favorite Nicolas Cage movie because I think my favorite Nicolas Cage movie was probably my first ever Nicolas Cage movie, which was Raising Arizona.
Okay, that's a great one. And I'm actually going to go Con Air as my favorite of all time.
That's a good one too.
But I have to give an honorable mention. And this is one that people are going to be like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And I actually looked it up while we've been recording to make sure I give it the exact title. But fun fact, Nicolas Cage actually included this in his top five favorite movies that he's actually been in. But it's, in my opinion, it's so bad it's good. But Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 86%. So maybe they agree with me. But Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, made in 2009. It's a crime action movie. It had Eva Mendes in it. unreal, his acting in that. He is literally like a lunatic in it. It is so crazy. So that is one. I don't know. Have you seen that one?
I have not seen that one. I was like, that is a new one for me. It was
Oh,
like,
I'm going to actually, before this podcast is over, I'm going to screenshot the IMDb and I'm sending it right to you because you and Doug would have a blast one night watching that. I mean, it
we
is
will have to check it
two
out for
hours
sure.
of craziness, and it's just what it is it's a crime thriller, and he's a drug addicted detective. It's based in New Orleans, and what it is that it overall it's chaotic. It's post Hurricane Katrina, so you have this guy who's battling addiction post Hurricane Katrina, and it's just such a wild movie. And Nicolas Cage, he has such a strong tie to New Orleans. He owned properties there one time. I know he's gone through financial issues over the years, but I believe when he was really doing well, he had a few places down there. So I think he always enjoys probably filming there and tying things there. But yeah, that is one I have to highly recommend checking out.
Yeah,
Um,
I was like, actually, the when I went to New Orleans, I saw the tomb that Nicolas Cage has purchased for himself in one of the cemeteries down there, and it's a giant pyramid shaped just tombstone, I guess, and ladies have kissed all over it and left like lipstick prints. So they have people who have to come in and either like clean it off or paint over it. And I just thought that was absolutely hilarious.
That is funny because I can see him doing that. He is somebody that I could tell is just like, hey, when I die, I want to be in New Orleans. And yeah,
Yeah, and it's
people
like it's
love
weird
that
because it's a
stuff.
cemetery that like doesn't have a lot of extra land available. So, he had to pull some strings to get the spot and pre-reserve it and put that thing up in advance of his death. But the
Those
other Nicholas,
cemeteries are crazy. Those cemeteries are crazy.
they're awesome. I really enjoyed walking through them. I thought they were very, very cool and creepy. And it's interesting the different ways that people dispose of their dead. But back on Nicolas Cage for a second, have you seen Willy's Wonderland?
Yes, and that actually blew my mind.
Isn't
Um,
that one of the best movies ever? I was like, it's a close second to Raising Arizona for, the favorite Nicolas Cage movie of mine. And he doesn't say a word.
does not say one word, and it just proves how well and versatile he is as an actor. He's made a movie recently. I don't know the title. It's like he's like a voodoo priest kind of type of guy, and he's talking in this crazy voice, and it just makes you laugh because you're like, that's Nicolas Cage. Like he is the only one that could pick this crazy voice and really
And
run
make
with
it
it.
work.
Yeah, and the other one I want to mention is I believe I'm going off the top of my head to think, and I know I'm gonna get it. Renfeld. And I'm pronouncing that? Yeah, Renfeld, the one where he's a
The
the
old
vampire.
vampire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love that. I
I
love
was
that
like,
movie.
that was an interesting one. We went to the theater and watched that on my birthday, whatever year that came out, a couple years ago.
2023. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it was a good time. I enjoyed it.
That movie was fun, and it was definitely also gave you a little thrill too.
Hmm.
So with horror movies, and horror, I've watched them. I've watched them with you. I've watched them with other people over the years. I have always dove into it. Um, but I'm going to give you my favorite horror movie. I definitely want to get into yours, but my favorite, and you're going to probably laugh, and a lot of people I tell to giggle, but it brings back that nostalgia feel because I remember seeing it in middle school, but the classic, The Ring, that is my favorite.
I mean, The Ring is great. And I remember the first time I watched that was on a band trip on one of those charter buses, and it was dark outside, and everybody all got scared at once. And then the joke for the entire trip was just calling each other and be like, "You have 7 days."
I think that was probably the go-to prank of that year whenever that did come out because that was just so creepy, and then the blurred face, and to be honest with you, I this is how that movie has still traumatized me. I recently, a few days ago, I've been really on this kick of like everywhere I go, making YouTube videos, taking photos, editing them into videos, and sharing them. I just love to share it. I feel like it's building a legacy on YouTube, which will always be around, and it's just a lot of fun. And the thing that I really enjoyed was going through some old CDs I found, and I wanted to discard the CDs because luckily this laptop has a CD drive, but it's getting older. And I just know CDs eventually are just going to be, you ain't going to be able to utilize them. So I took all the photos, got them on my computer, put them on thumb drive and stuff, and was able to make the videos out of it. But I was going through them, and there's a few because I'm using an older camera back in the day, and a few of them had people's faces blurry or certain things blurry. And I remember the other night, I'm just quick to delete those because I'm immediately getting triggered like, oh, these are ring photos. Like,
Immediately like they're cursed. She's coming through my TV. I have seven
exactly.
days to sort myself out or pass this on. Otherwise, I'm dead. Yeah.
Exactly. And see, the thing about it, the getting on the ring before we dive into your favorite horrors, you asked earlier about what's a great older guy to put in a movie, like an older man, a gentleman. I love the old man from The Ring, the one that was actually, you remember he committed suicide in the bathtub, and
Oh yeah. He was
that guy
creepy.
is a great actor. I
And
can't
he's
remember.
in a lot of stuff. I do not know his name though.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look
Wait,
him up. Actually, that's why we have Google and technology, and that's
this
what
is
we
true.
do. Let's look this guy up. So with the cast overall, he is such a yeah, Brian Cox. He played
Okay, yeah.
Richard Morgan, and so yeah, Brian Cox, who is very very good at movies. He was great in The Ring.
Yeah, I was like, he plays in a lot of like dramatic roles. I was like, I can just always see him telling you the very important part of whatever lore of the movie he's in.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so what are some of your favorite horrors? What would you say what would you say is the scariest movie you've ever seen, and what is the okay, I'll do a two-parter. Your scariest horror movie, actually we'll make it three-part, make it more fun. Your scariest horror movie, the one that you love the most, and one that still leaves you to this day guessing, like, and basically leaving an impact on you of what did I just watch? So go with those three categories. Can you do that?
Okay, yeah. You might have to hit me with them one at a time because my memory
Oh, yo,
absolutely
you're
sucks.
good.
But
You're good. So the
one that
first one,
stuck with me,
yeah, the one that
one,
stuck with you that is still kind of giving you confusion of like, what did I just watch?
okay, there was a movie, it was called Contracted. It came out in like 2013 or so. And it was about a, God, it's so hard to explain because again, it's one of those what did I just watch movies. But it's like a girl goes on a date with a guy and ends up going home with him. Things happen, and she did not know that he apparently is into like banging dead bodies in the morgue.
Whoa.
So she gets a crazy like STD that turns her into a weird zombie. And I did not make it all the way through that movie because it was just disgusting. And
Wow.
I
Wow.
like I made it to like the last 10 minutes and I was like, okay, I've had enough. And so I don't really have questions. I kind of know what I watched, but also I'm like, why did anyone make this?
Yeah, who made that plot? Okay, what is the one that has scared you the most?
Oh, scared me the most. I see, I guess as a kid, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre scared me enough that I have not actually watched most of them as an adult. So we're gonna go with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
They are
Some
terrifying. The whole reality of knowing that there's realness, that actually somebody has done that kind of stuff, and it's very very weird. I know it's not the exact storyline plot of what actually happened in real life, but just the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is just it's very 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 creepy,
I was
kind of
like,
like Jeepers
Leatherface as
Creepers.
a whole is just, he is a creepy looking man and he scares me. And also, I think the fact that that movie has like a heavy sand dust color filter thing going on.
Hmm.
And I've noticed that other horror movies that have that same filter have the same effect on me. So I don't know if I'm just scared of the desert internally and I haven't realized it yet.
Yeah,
But
you're like, man, why is this movie shot like this? Like, I
well,
really
it
want to
just
watch this.
it's so like dusty and sepia tone that it almost makes your eyes feel a little itchy, like you got sand up in there and you got to get it out. So I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
no,
that has
I'm
something
with
to
you
do
on
with it.
that. It freaks me out too. Like that is a scary, scary movie. The other thing too about it, that's how Jeepers Creepers, that's how even the Blair Witch Project, like that those are the movies when you're a kid, even though it's fictionalized in these movies, it hits at home. It becomes so real because you can realize this could happen to me. Like that quick and that possible. And what would be your legendary iconic horror film? Like for someone even to kind of spin off on it's like someone that you would say this is your go-to horror film because you could even recommend this to somebody that doesn't usually watch horror.
I mean, my go-to horror film is always going to be Halloween. Pretty much any iteration of Halloween. And I don't know that I would really recommend it to anyone because I feel like everybody has seen it and already formed an opinion on whether or not it's their jam.
Yeah.
But I was like, that would be my ultimate favorite because I watch it every year on Halloween. I have since I think I was 16. And I just kind of I bounce around between the different movies, different timelines, different canons because I know there's a lot of that stuff going on.
So I got to ask you this because I've never lived in a small town. So watching horror films in Louisville, Kentucky, which is a crazy city, big city, and then you got Ghent, very low population, very more quiet, more reserved. Does watching movies in Ghent feel different than watching them in Louisville, even though you're inside a house?
Honestly, yeah, I've noticed during our Halloween marathon last year that just the vibes were a bit better because it's really, really foggy out here at night and like in the early wee hours of the morning. So you get the real spooky Halloween vibes. And also there's just a lot less noise to kind of break your focus while you're watching a movie. Fewer ambulances going up and down the road, fewer, neighbors if you were in an apartment down in Louisville.
Yeah.
So,
And so I feel like too, once you step outside after watching some, probably when you're in Gen, with it having such low and less noise, that random sound, even if it's an owl or something, out in the distance, it could definitely, get you more alert, where you're just
oh,
like, oh, that's just an ambulance, in Louisville.
there's for sure some creepy noises out here because everybody's got random animals and you never know what animal's making what noise at what time. Like our neighbor across the street had a like kind of broken rooster who was just going off at weird times of day. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but it's not daybreak. Please calm down.
that, that a rooster is always such a very interesting legendary animal for wake up calls. Everybody goes to the rooster and I never thought I would see that in Louisville. And I remember I'm working on a house, Taylor Boulevard area, very close to Southwestern Park, which is off Central Avenue. Literally, us being this close to Derby, 5 minutes from Churchill Downs. And I'm sitting there working on the house, and I'm like, is that really a rooster that I'm hearing? And I look out, what do I see on the fence post? A rooster. And it's like 9 o'clock in the morning. So it always that always cracked me up and sat with me that it's like, wow, I knew I'd see that in the country, but I didn't know I would see that here. I've seen roosters in backyards, but one that's actually given the morning call is pretty crazy. Um, so I actually want to talk a little bit about something with Jen and horror. So Jen, Kentucky, they when you Google they labeled it as a small river town, but one of the regional lore for Ghent, Kentucky is the legend of a cursed 1830s chest of drawers that supposedly caused 18 deaths. Have you heard of this?
I have not heard of this. This is news to me.
Okay, so this mahogany piece built by an enslaved man named Reheis and cursed after his murder by John Graham was later actually donated to the Kentucky Historical Society. According to legend, after John Graham killed Reheis for poor craftsmanship, friends of the builder cursed the chest with owl's blood. It was said to bring death to anyone who used it, prompting the owner to keep an owl feather and a protective note in the top drawer to break the curse. That is absolutely wild. Is that not crazy?
Yeah, that is absolutely bananas. I have not heard that. I mean, I could see it around here. There's legends about literally everything. So,
That is so cool. And I'm, and what I like to like when I do podcasts and being, doing these shows, I will start talking to a guest will either teach me something or we'll look up some while we're recording. And then it's like, okay, the show's over, and then 2 hours later I'm still reading about this chest of drawers or some crazy mystery. But that's where it just you learn so many things doing the podcast, and so it always blows my mind hearing these urban legends and crazy stories like that. But yeah, I could, being in Gent when I came down to see you all that one time, it was like it it's such an interesting place, and it definitely you can tell at some time it's probably had spooky history, but I believe every little small town, probably in any state, has some kind of urban legend or story that kind of, sits with them.
oh, all of them do. Yeah, and especially in Kentucky, like Kentucky is just like littered with spooky history. It's everywhere, including under our feet in the cave systems.
Oh, 100%. Caves. You and I could talk another hour about caves. I mean, they have so much crazy lore. The biggest thing that people don't realize in Kentucky, the cave wars. And when you tell somebody outside of Kentucky, they go, "Oh, that probably was just people fighting in caves back in the." No, literally, caves become such a popular trend before there was entertainment that that's what people needed stuff to do when they weren't at work. So they would go to the different caves, and everybody in Kentucky was like, "Hey, I got a cave for you to explore." Some were dangerous, some weren't. They just cared about making the money, but people would go and actually try to check these out. And the most fucked up cave story I ever heard, a guy was in a cave trying to, he owned a cave and he ended up getting stuck, and he was stuck in that cave. And what happened during the cave wars, whoever, I guess, I don't believe he owned it, but I believe he was in there trying to get through it. He gets stuck. They can't save him. So they start selling attraction tickets to come see him. And people were literally talking to him. Some people made fun of him. Some people were telling him they're sorry. He's stuck. So people made money off it. And when he died, they were eventually able to take the body. And for years, he was put at the front of the cave in a display case. Thank God they finally buried him and gave this man his rest, his peace. But good Lord, think about you're dying, you're stuck in a cave. Now you got all these people come to see you, and then when you die, your spirit's like, oh well, where's my body? Oh, I'm at the front of the cave in a display case.
Yeah,
Like,
like you never get to leave the cave.
good
Ridiculous.
Lord. I mean, it's just so sad. And about that guy that it wasn't in Kentucky, but that Nutty Putty cave where he got stuck, and there's just that's something, you talk about wanting to scare yourself. You know me. I really like thrills and I like ghost stuff, but at the end of the day, I can really get focused on something and it can blow my mind. And the one thing that really blows my mind that still gives me an adrenaline rush, even though I'm sitting on my couch, not anywhere near a cave, is cave explorers on YouTube. Seeing these people that's their fun on the weekend is going and crawling through caves and exploring caves, and it gives me claustrophobia, and I'm sitting here on the couch.
Oh, for sure. I was like, I can't even think about going spelunking myself. That would just creep me out from the get-go as soon as I could not see the sunlight. I am not meant to be below the ground.
No,
Um, but,
and it
but
causes
that's
panic.
probably because of the movie The Descent. I was like,
Yeah.
if you haven't seen that one will give you claustrophobia from the couch.
Whew. I know exactly that movie, and yes, it is 100% one that can really freak you out and make you feel very uneasy. Even if you're in the biggest room in the world, that movie can still really get you. Um, what would you say is a place of where do you think they should make a horror movie? A location? What do you think is an ideal location that you don't think they've made a horror movie? It don't even have to be a place you visited, but just a place that you think, man, I've heard about this place. It'd be a great place that they can make a horror movie at. What would you think?
Ooh, I was like, that would be if they could do like a horror movie inside of one of like the royal palaces in pretty much anywhere and do it well, I would be impressed because I feel like anytime you get just as any sort of castle on a screen, the movie is probably going to be bad.
Whew. I agree with you. Just you saying that, just picturing being in some big giant place with hidden rooms and cause, anything can go down. It almost gives you that Scooby Doo vibes where it's like people just pop up out of nowhere. I also, a place that I think would make a great horror movie. I've been there once. It's the largest residence in the United States, the Biltmore Estate.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
Woo, that would be such a horror movie. I remember going there at a young age. They got this room off the side that's got like gardens in the middle and it's inside and I remember walking through the house and just staring off into the fields that are behind it like they have all this land off of the house and you just think about especially even back in the day of what animals and what people try to come up to the house and them exploring and just and then overall just being in that house there's so many rooms anybody could hide anywhere.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then also you have like these big spaces give you the false sense of security that there's always somewhere to run. But sometimes when you're in one of those big places, you end up in a weird little corner with only one actual exit that's too far away from an actual ground exit. You end up, in a top floor of 4 stories in a closet and you're just stuck there, and that's way more terrifying than being just trapped in one small room.
I completely agree with you. I believe that it is just it is a very just weird feeling when you're trapped. When you feel that sense of no escape, it's kind of like I said with these cave people like when you get to that point where you are stuck, like you are not getting out, that causes more fear than even the
Yeah.
location itself.
Well,
Um
and even that sense of panic of just having options of places to run. And then, you start to like hyperventilate and worry that you're making the wrong choice. And then ultimately you end up making the wrong choice because you're not really thinking. And then you're just absolutely trapped.
Very true. And let me ask you this, just for fun, talking about animals, we know they've made movies about dogs, we know Cujo, and we know there's,
Hmm.
Idris Elba made a movie about a lion that kept coming after him, and there's been other movies, but what do you think's an animal that they haven't really focused on in horror that they could really make something crazy with?
Oh, see, I mean, they've covered so many because you've got the snakes covered, the birds are covered. I mean, I guess we haven't really had a very evil cat.
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't had like an evil tiger, I feel like would be crazy.
That would be crazy. I would not want to mess with an evil tiger.
Now, have you ever, talking about movies, let me ask you this. Have you ever seen the movie Roar? Roar?
Is that the one with Melanie Griffith in it
Yes.
from way back in the day? Yeah.
Okay. All right. Talking about that movie. That movie, the first time I watched it, absolutely blew my mind. Melanie Griffith, her family raised big cats. That was pretty much a true documentary with a spin with the plot included. But people don't realize with Roar, it was the diddliest movie ever made. People died on set, people got attacked. There's even a scene where there's people bleed. That's real. And these cats were everywhere. And the people in that movie, were literally being attacked, and her family just acted like it was no big deal. And Melanie Griffith, she was massively attacked in that movie. So watching that movie, you're literally seeing people actually be attacked by big cats, but also too, like there was a room in that movie in Roar, and there's just big cats everywhere. Like a guy enters the door, and even though I love my tigers, I love my lions, that shit freaks you out. Like,
Oh yeah.
and it's just anything can happen, anything can go wrong quick. So if you haven't watched Roar, for people listening, check that movie out. It's actually free on YouTube. You can actually YouTube Roar and watch it for free. If they've stopped that, it's very cheap to find. But it's definitely highly recommended. It's one of the most controversial movies of all time, and definitely one of the most dangerous. And I really enjoyed that movie. I just thought, because it had big cats, but it was kind of cool how they were able to include a storyline involved with it.
Yeah, I was like, it was an interesting movie, and I was like, I always thought it was crazy that Melanie Griffith got attacked because that was, I think, the bottom half of her face was what the whichever cat, was it a tiger or a lion, got her on the face. And so she had to have all that reconstructive surgery. And so, like, flash forward years later, and people are like making fun of her lips because they're, pretty large and obviously enhanced, but they don't actually equate it to the fact that she had to get surgery because of that role.
And see, this is something crazy. This is how the universe works. Before we recorded tonight, when I got off work, I was eating dinner and I watched. I've been really hooked on. I've already seen them all the episodes, but I got back on Tubi watching Miami Vice. And Melanie Griffith had on and off with Don Johnson, the star of
Hmm.
Miami Vice. They used to date and I believe were married and stuff. So it's kind of crazy. I was just watching Miami Vice, and now we're talking about Melanie Griffith. It's just I even got it paused on I know my television to watch it later, but it's crazy. And so with Roar, there was over 150 untrained big cats in Africa that they were using, and basically the visiting family, that's kind of the plot, was terrorized them, and over 70 cast and crew members were injured. And Tippi Hedren and Melanie Griffith, were definitely, like you said, were attacked. And the thing that's crazy is that no animals were harmed during the filming. I also, to kind of look, and let me just, because I don't want to ever spread anything, that's false, but there was no human fatality. So instead of the most deadly movie, I want to take that back and say it's the most dangerous. So people probably had enough, serious stuff where it injuries that could have resulted in death, but it was absolutely terrifying. And what's interesting too, several lions and animals actually died during production due to illness and a 1978 flood that required the police to actually kill some of the escaped animals. So this flood had some of these cats escape the production set, and they were having to be put down. So very wild. That actually kind of reminds me. Do you remember back in Ohio when that guy had all those animals on private and they escaped in Zanesville?
No, I don't remember that either.
Yeah, so in Zanesville, Ohio, what happened was there was a animal escape situation. So what it was, it's called the Zanesville Animal Escape. It actually has its own Wikipedia. So October 18th, 2011, the owner of the Muskegon County Animal Farm in Zanesville, Ohio, released multiple exotic animals that he owned into Zanesville and then committed suicide. The sheriff's office and Ohio State Highway Patrol killed 48 of the animals. And what it ended up turning out to be was 48 animals shot dead, two animals presumed eaten, and six animals were actually captured. And so the reaction was insane. And actually, here's a list. The 48 animals that were killed were Bengal tigers, American black bears, grizzly bears, wolves, macaque monkey, a baboon, mountain lions, African lions. Actually, 17 African lions were released, three leopards, and macaws, and a small grizzly bear as well. And what I'm very happy, the Columbus Zoo, they really stepped up. They were able to, thank God, tranquilize some of the animals and not, put them all to death, which they didn't deserve. And Columbus Zoo took a lot of those animals on. But absolutely wild that happened in Zanesville.
Yeah, I was like, that is crazy. I would have never anticipated that in Ohio.
And it's interesting. It's like that guy, he just, he I hate that he felt the way he did and had to kill himself, but it's like to release all these animals and realize what a damage that could do to not only the animals but to the community. He really had been going through something. But I feel like that's actually something that would be a great horror movie. I also have always thought that it'd be a great plot to make like a zoo escape horror movie, where it's you know besides just an animal being escaped, something darker, where it's like someone releasing them or doing that. So it's definitely something that could have a interesting plot.
So kind of, see, just envisioning like a more horror tilted Jumanji.
Yes, exactly. And see, Jumanji, I love that movie. What you
Oh,
think
I
of
loved it too.
Jumanji?
It's great.
Do you feel like with Jumanji, do you feel like that was our big taste at our age? You and I are in our late 30s, but around that time, that was our big break of really seeing technology applied in a movie.
Yeah, I was like, that was really cool. Just because even like when you watch the original one again today, those animals don't look ridiculous, and a lot of them were computer generated for the first time. So I think they did really good with that. And yeah, I think that
The
was where we developed the taste for it.
the one funny part about that movie is that when the little boy becomes the monkey, and he looks so realistic, and they end up he makes that face when the camera zooms in on him. It's like,
Hmm.
"Mer," and it's just like there was these little lines, and like even Robin Williams, turning into the crazy hunter, and I love too, like that was what was great about Jumanji. It was suspenseful, it was thrilling, it had the historic value. But even during the stampede, when the rhino's out of smoke and it's tired and it's like, it has all the other animals had ran off. Like,
Well, and you have that
like
like lady who's in a car just like watching them all go by.
she's losing her mind, and even the cop,
The
uh, you
cop is
know,
just like, what do I do here? There's nothing I can do here.
he's screaming. He screams like, ah, like he was just losing his mind. But Robin Williams, rest in peace to him. He always made great movies, and I swear he was some guy that you could put in with those type of things, fake animals, flubber. He could act even if the thing wasn't physically there, which was just such a cool feature of him as an actor. But Carrie, I have to say we could have gone on for hours on hours. I know that you and I, we could talk more movies, talk more caves. What this means is you're gonna have to be on the show again. When I do season 8, and you have been a great guest. I have always thought you'd be a fantastic guest, so I'm finally glad that I was able to get you on here, season 7. What's your thoughts and vibes on podcasting? How do you like it?
I mean, it's been a good time. I'm glad I came on, happy to help out, and hope everybody enjoyed my opinions on things.
Yes, for sure. And if anybody has questions for Carrie or myself or want to know more about movies, Carrie is very easy to get a hold of, and I can also always reach out to her and get anybody info that they need. And people listen to this show. Leave comments, tell me about movies that you like or anything that we touched on. And the thing about the movies, the one good thing is I don't think movies will ever stop, because as much as we think everything's been made, there's always something, always a topic that hasn't. Just like the Zanesville animal escape, just like other things we discussed. Even more cave scary movies. I mean, you could you could use so many plot twists, in a cave escape film. But Carrie, thank you again for being on Vibing with Sleazy, the website. Definitely check that out, vibingwithsleazy.com. Vibing with Sleazy, the podcast, Facebook, Instagram. Show love, reach out. This is episode 17, so only four more episodes left for season 7. I hope everybody's been enjoying the season. I hope everybody gets to catch up. And season 8 will be out in 2027. But Carrie, again, thank you. And we are out. Peace.